The biggest issue I see with business owners is that they don't use retirement accounts. They don't invest outside of their business because they use every dollar and put it back into their business. Investing in your business is important, right? You need to put into marketing. You need to build out your right team. You need to bonus your employees, but you also need to invest outside of your business. And one of the best ways to do that is through leveraging the right retirement accounts. There are a few options. Some of those options are a 401k, a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, a solo 401k, and then some individual retirement accounts like traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, etc. I'm going to start with the solo 401k. The solo 401k, in my opinion, is the best retirement account out there, but you can only use this if you have just one employee who's the owner, if you have just an owner and their spouse, or if your business is just made up of owners. Something many people don't know is if it's just me and a co-founder, we each can have a solo 401k for our business. But if it's me and a co-founder, then we add an employee, you no longer can use a solo 401k. Solo 401k is just an individual 401k. They're pretty easy to set up. There's a lot of good carriers out there where you can set this up. And how it works is there's an employee side contribution that is $23,500 for 2025. So as long as you're an S Corp and your wages are above $23,500, or you're a sole prop or a partnership, I guess, in this situation, and you have enough profit above the $23,500, you can do the $23,500 employee contribution. Then there's an employer contribution. So the employer contribution is 25% of W-2 wages. So if you paid $100,000 in W-2 wages, you could do $25,000. Or if you're not an S Corp, it's 20% of business profits. So if you have 100,000 of business profits, you can do another 20,000. So again, if we're this S Corp, we make 100,000 in wages, you could do 23,500 plus 25,000. So you have 48,500. However, you still have room to contribute above it. Next year, the annual contribution amount will be $70,000. So if we use that example before, 23,500 plus 25, that gets you 48,500, even though there's 70,000 of room. So what that looks like is you have 21,500 of room left. The way to get this in is through what's called the mega backdoor Roth 401k. So you put money into the after-tax side, and then you convert it right over to Roth. And as long as your wages are above that 70,000 number, you have the ability to do it. And this is why the solo 401k is my favorite. It has the employee side, which SEPs don't. It has the employer side, and it has the ability to do the mega backdoor Roth. On top of it, if you have a spouse and they get paid in the business, you can do it as well. So let's say you hire your spouse, pay them to do admin work, pay them $30K. They could do $23,500 and then 25% of that $30K. And so you can end up getting a lot of contributions in. Solo 401k, by far my favorite. The next one we're going to go to is a SEP IRA. So let's say you've moved beyond just having owners or just having owner and a spouse, and you say, I need to have a retirement account for me and my one employee. This is the rare situation where I think a SEP IRA could make sense. So the SEP IRA, you have that same $70,000 max contribution, but there's no employee side. So let's say you own the business, you pay yourself $100,000, you can do 25% of your W-2 wages to a SEP. So that would be $25K. So if you look at this between a solo and a SEP, that's a big difference, right? The solo got the 23.5 plus the 25. The SEP only got the 25. But on top of that, with a SEP, if you have any employees, you have to contribute the same percentage of their income. So let's say you pay yourself 100 and you pay your employee 100, you have to do 25,000 for them as well. This is something and a big reason why I don't like SEP IRAs at all. You know, tax professionals will recommend SEP IRAs because it's post the calendar year being over, but that's not as big of a deal anymore because now you can open a solo 401k post the year being over, but you can't do the employee contribution if it's past December 31st. So again, with the SEP, 25% of W-2 wages or 20% of business profits, no employee contribution. There is new rules that allows for Roth with a SEP, but I haven't seen that be put into place today. I'm not a big fan of SEPs. I've actually never really recommended one other than for somebody who was an individual employee by themselves. They already maxed out the employee side through their W-2 job, and they just wanted to do employer, and they were under the Roth IRA income limit. Because with a SEP IRA, simple IRA, etc., if you have anything in there, you can't do the backdoor Roth in a tax-free way anymore because of the pro rata rule, which I've hit on a number of times. The third one is a regular 401k. So this is typically what you'll see at bigger businesses, but today it's actually something you'll see at smaller businesses, and it's something I really like. With a 401k, you can set it up at low-cost providers today as well, where you basically pay a monthly fee and then a fee per person. And so with a 401k, very similar to an individual 401k, you have this 23,500 employee contribution number. So let's say you own the business, you make 100,000, you can put in that 23.5 as long as you make above 23.5. And then you set up some match. So you could have a match of non-elective 3%. So whether anybody puts anything in, you give them 3%. You can have 100% to 3, 50% to 5. So if they put in 5%, you put in 4. You can do 100% to 4, 100% to 6. Those are all safe harbor options. And with safe harbor, all that means is that you don't have to do compliance testing at the end of the year, which means the owner can contribute. So let's say you have an owner and you have 3 employees and you say, I want to set up a plan that's not safe harbor. I'm going to give no match. What happens is your employees end up not using it, and then you want to max it out because you make the most. Well, at the end of the year, there's compliance testing, and they basically say, oh, you discriminate against your employees. This is too top heavy. There's too much money for you as the business owner. We're reversing your contributions out. When you pick a safe harbor plan, it avoids that issue. So same example, you have 3 employees. You do the non-elective 3% contribution. So let's say you have 100,000 in wages between the 3 of them. Whether they put any in, you put in 3%, so 3,000 total. By doing that, it allows you to make sure you can contribute the 23,500. With the 401k, safe harbor is really important. You can do 23,500. There's a catch-up contribution of $7,500 if you're between basically 50 and 60. Once you're above 60, there's a few years where you can actually do 150% of the 7,500. It's a new rule as of this year. On top of that, they have both Roth and traditional. If you're a big business, they have the mega backdoor Roth 401k, like I talked about with the solo. But if you're a small business, even if you have a safe harbor plan, the mega backdoor Roth has compliance testing. Any small business is going to fail. There's no reason to even try to build that in because it's just going to get reversed out. So that's the 401k. So far, my 2 favorites are individual 401k if you qualify, or a 401k. The last one to talk about for employer ones is the simple IRA. So a simple IRA is really just a basic 401k. You set it up, they have the 3% contribution. For a long time, people used it because it was just cheaper, less record keeping. But now with those lower cost providers, I don't see it making sense very often. What people do is they'll set up a simple, or they've done it a long time ago. You're allowed to do 16,500. And there's also a catch-up contribution if you're 50 to 59 of 3,500. And then if you're that 60, 61, 62, or 63, you can actually do 150% of that, 5,250. The reason I don't really like simple IRAs is, one, because you can't do backdoor Roths. It triggers the pro rata rule. You can't do backdoor Roths. The other reason is lower contribution limits. So as you can see, you can't do that 23,500. You can do the 16,500. So that's $7,000 less for the owner. So I think of simple IRAs as really just like dumbed down worse 401ks. I think SEP IRAs are way worse than solos. And then once you add employees, because you have to match the exact amount of income as you do for yourself, most people don't end up contributing a lot. So I see regular 401ks being better. So all the time people ask me what retirement account makes sense. I would say in the vast majority of cases, if you have no employees or just owners, it's a solo 401k. If you have employees, then it's a regular 401k. But at the end of the day, you always want to evaluate what your options are, what makes the most sense for you. But those are what I found to be the best. After that, your other retirement accounts are a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Basically, with a traditional IRA, the income limits are really low. So if you make, a lot of money, you can't contribute to an IRA. Even if you made 200 grand, you can't contribute to an IRA. And an IRA is pre-tax. It reduces your taxable income today. If you make low income, you're in a low bracket, a lot of times Roth makes sense. However, if you make above $230,000 a year, you also can't directly contribute to a Roth IRA, which is where that backdoor Roth comes in. What that means is you contribute to a traditional IRA, you don't deduct it because you can't, you're over the income limit, then you convert it over to Roth. That is a tax-free event if you don't have money in a simple IRA, SEP IRA, or a traditional IRA, which is why I talk so much about that pro rata rule here early on. The last thing I want to hit on is Roth and traditional. A lot of times business owners are thinking, do I do Roth? Do I do traditional? What most people don't understand is if you do Roth, you're choosing to pay tax at your top marginal bracket. If you choose to do traditional, you're reducing at that top bracket. So let's say you're in the 37% bracket, you want to do Roth. What that means is that you're choosing to pay tax at the 37%. If you do pre-tax, you're choosing to reduce that tax bracket at the 37%. And then what happens is if you do pre-tax, it reduces today, it grows tax deferred, and then in retirement, you take money out and it fills through brackets. Not getting into too much advice here, but generally if you're in 10, 12, you for sure most likely will do Roth. 32, 35, or 37, most times you're going to do pre-tax. If you're 22 or 24, it really depends. Is this the highest income earning years you've had, and are you in your 50s? Maybe that means you do pre-tax. If you're early in your 20s or your 30s and you're going to jump into higher brackets later on, then it might make sense to do Roth because you're in a lower bracket than you expect in the future. But at the end of the day, as a business owner, you want to make sure that you evaluate these retirement accounts. When you think about tax-free growth or tax-deferred growth, and that you do diversify outside of your business. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and go follow my page for more personal finance content. And as always, if you have any thoughts, please leave it in the comments below, and I promise to get back to each individual comment. See you next week.